Hi everyone, Jesse here with eTrailer. Today we'll be taking a look at and I'll show you how to install the Roadmaster diode kit on our 2024 Ford Bronco. The diodes will install behind your tail light here, which is a lot nicer looking than some of those magnetic options that you see where people have to mount them on your roof. It's also a lot less hassle having to get those set up every time you're going to flat tow. Another thing is a vehicle like the Bronco, this is all plastic here, so the magnetic lights probably wouldn't even work, but they mount to your tail light wiring, your factory tail light wiring, and those diodes are there to prevent any backfeed or any kind of damage to your factory wiring. There's 5 main components to look into when setting up your vehicle for flat tow, starting with the base plate. That's going to be the structural mounting point for the second main component, which is your tow bar. That's the physical link between both towed vehicle and motorhome. Then we have our diode wiring here. This will send a signal from the motorhome to the taillights of the towed vehicle to keep you safe and legal out there on the road by allowing your turn signals, your taillights, and your brake lights to function properly on the towed vehicle. Then our braking system. This is another thing to keep you safe and legal out there. It's going to help you come to a nice safe stop by allowing your towed vehicle's brakes to help your motorhome stop, so you're not just relying on the motorhome's brakes. And then we have our safety cables here. These are here as a last line of defense in case of a catastrophic disconnect. These will help hold everything together so you can get pulled over safely on the side of the road. The kit comes with everything you need to get it installed, from all of the wires that you'll need and the diodes, even the 6-pole connector and umbilical here. So that's really nice to just know that you have everything brand new right out of the box. And as for that installation, it's not too difficult of a process. It does involve running wires from the front to the back of the vehicle. So if you just don't have any time, space, or tools to get this job done yourself, feel free to check out our dealer locator. If you are looking to get this set up yourself, then follow along and I'll walk you through that process. Also, if you've installed this on your Bronco before and you just want to share some tips or tricks with us, please feel free to leave a review or a comment. To begin our installation, I would start by finding about where you're going to mount your 6-way. You don't have to get it all mounted up quite yet, but we already have this bracket here, so I just brought the wires down here, taped off with a little bit of slack. As for feeding the wires through, it was pretty difficult. It's really tight back behind the grill. What I did was I ran some airline tubing down and then just pulled it through. But we got that pulled through there, and now we're up into the engine bay. Once I got up here, what I did was left a loop for my braking system. I'll need to tie into these wires, so if you have any other accessories, I'd always recommend to leave some slack in your engine bay. And then what I've done is separated, I cut into our white wire, that's our ground wire, and I'm starting to separate it here. Is what I'll do is crimp a ring terminal on and tie it into our ground on our battery. So once I get that done, we'll start feeding wires towards the back of our vehicle. One thing to mention before we send our wiring back is with that rest of that white wire that we're not using, I'm going to strip it off the other 3 wires. And then what we'll use this for is as our connection from our driver's side tail light to the other. We'll have to link our tail light signal together, and I'll use the white wire to do that. You won't be able to see it, but our engine bay is up there. I just sent the wires down through the wheel well. It's pretty simple. Then from here, I came across our frame. And then I just followed this wiring harness. I zip tied to it just to keep everything looking nice and neat. We got towards our rear tires here. I went up above our frame and tied it up to this cross brace. Just kind of followed our fuel lines and stuff like that. And then at this point, we're right at our, right above our rear axle. At this point, what I'll do is split our yellow and brown from our green. The yellow and brown will go up to our driver's side tail light there, and the green will come over to our passenger side with that white wire to connect our tail lights. Now, to get access to our tail light wiring, we'll need to remove this plastic piece here. There's going to be a few of these Phillips screw fasteners. These are just plastic. They're similar to the push pins, just you can unthread them like that. Let's get these off. If you come into the same issue I was having with this one where you're spinning it and it won't back off, just jam a flathead under and then unthread it. It'll just put a little bit of pressure on it and that center piece will come out. With those four removed, we can remove these two 10mm bolts. Now this piece should pull out. You just have to get your fingers underneath it and set it aside. Now, to get easier access to our wiring, I'm going to pop this push pin out. That'll give us a little slack. And then to unplug this, we'll just push in on this pin here and pull the plug away. Now from here, we'll test our wires and figure out what wires we need to work with. Now to test these wires, I'll just go through the tail light. Right now I have the tail lights on. So on the back side of our plug here, we can make contact there with my test light. That lets me know that this blue and gray wire here is our tail light signal. And I already tested for our turn signal, which is going to be this gray and orange wire. So those are the two wires that we're going to have to splice into. So what I'll do is I cut back some of the sheathing that we had. What I'll do is just find a good spot where I have enough slack on both sides, cut into that wire, and we'll start connecting our diodes. Minor correction with the wires, instead of the turn signal wires, we're going to use the brake light wires, which is this blue and green wire here. So when you're testing, just make sure you have the brake pedal depressed and you'll go off that one. The reason for that is our turn signal is yellow and it's a legal requirement to have red brake lights, so we're going to tie into that. Using the brake light as our turn signals is just fine. So all we did was we crimped our spade terminals together. This is our turn signal diode here. So that's our yellow wire, and that tied in with our blue and green. So the end on our blue and green that's farthest from our plug goes into the in, and then the other end goes into the out. And for our tail lights, that was our blue and gray wire, and I used the white wire. That's going to be our connector. So you'll notice in your kit you'll have one larger spade terminal. You'll use that because we have to combine the brown and the white for our tail light. And then we tie it in the same way as the other one with our blue and gray going in and then out. Over on our passenger side, it's the same concept, just the color of our wires changed a little bit. For our turn signal, that's going to be the thicker blue and gray wire. And for our tail light signal, that's going to be the thinner blue and gray wire. Now I have our tail lights plugged in, so we're ready to move on to our 6-pole at the front of the vehicle. It's a pretty simple process. You'll just have to strip back each of your 4 wires. And then for the connection, all you have to do is back off this small Phillips screw. Don't take it out all the way because you don't want to drop one of these. It's pretty easy to lose. Then I'll just start with the brown wire here. This is our taillight signal. It's going to go into the post marked TM for tail marker. Then we'll tighten that Phillips down. That'll make our connection. And just repeat that process with all the other ones. The RT will be green for right turn. LT is yellow for left turn. And our white is ground. That'll say GD. Just hook that up. Now I have our 6-pole hooked up to a test box. You could also hook it up to your motor home, but we'll just run through the lights real quick. This will be our right turn. Brake lights. Left turn. And tail lights. But otherwise, that's going to do it for our look at and installation of the Roadmaster diode kit on our 2024 Ford Bronco.